We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our conversations and coffee on this 31st day of July, 2025. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program. Our guest artists today are David King. David, stand up. And Gayle Van Marter. Yay.
And they're here for my birthday.
Oh, how wonderful. Happy birthday to you. What's your name?
Bonnie.
Honey. Wonderful. And they are indeed here for your birthday. We're celebrating with you art, glass, and community. You call us to a beautiful theme. David is an artist and educator, working primarily with glass and found materials. With a strong belief in the aura of handmade objects, his projects begin with research into historical manufacturing processes, while being observant of the frenetic pace of technological advancements. His objects and installations reflect an interest in a meandering kind of storytelling, where plot lines are intertwined and confused. Some details are forgotten, and others, more absurd memories, are adopted out of a sense of playfulness. Wonderful. David has a BFA from OSU and earned his MFA from Tyler School of Art and Architecture at Temple University in Philadelphia. He's twice been a fellow at Wheaton Arts, an emerging artist in residence at the Pilchuck Glass School, and an artist in residence at Sunderland University in the UK. He's a founding member of the artist collective Flock the Optic, whose performances and installations have been recognized by the Corning Museum of Glass, Urban Glass's Glass Quarterly, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. David has taught at Tyler School of Art and Architecture, University of the Arts, Salem Community College, Center College, Pilchuck Glass School, Northlands Creative Glass, Urban Glass, and the Glass Pavilion of the Toledo Museum of Art. A recent recipient of the Battelle Engineering Technology and Human Affairs Grant and a Center for Craft Teaching Artist Cohort Grant, David is currently a visiting assistant professor and the glass area coordinator of The Ohio State University. Welcome, David. So glad to have you with us. Wow, what a story. What a journey. And you, Gayle Van Marter, in David's class. And when I invited Gayle around Christmas time, she said, oh yes, if David can be here, my teacher. Wonderful. Gayle is an educator and aspiring artist who melds glass, metals, and lapidary techniques to craft functional art. With a background in business leadership and education, she has shared her passion and expertise through volunteer service with the Columbus Recreation and Parks. Gayle served the arts community as a board member of the Friends of the Columbus Cultural Arts Center and as a volunteer instructor at a community center catering to the 50-plus demographic. After many years of volunteering, Gayle recently transitioned to a part-time instructional role with the Columbus Recreation and Parks Fran Ryan Center, where she teaches stained glass, fused glass, lapidary, and jewelry making. Gayle is furthering her artistic journey as a glass arts student at The Ohio State University, where she's exploring innovative ways to integrate glass, metals, and minerals into her evolving creations. Her body of work reflects a strong commitment to both artistic excellence and community engagement. Thank you, Gayle, for being with us. David and Gayle, you call us to understand the beauty of the art of glass. So take it away.
Thank you, Ellen. So as Ellen mentioned, I did, as you know, as we can go in and flip. So I can. Can I? You want me to stand? So one of the things that I've been involved in working with glass. I'm not going to use my. I'm just going to. Working with glass. We're doing more crafty things and things that I call it functional art or functional art, yeah. And then one of the things as an educator, you know, you kind of get stuck. You're working so much that you get stuck. So I got encouraged to take a class at Ohio State in the art department to kind of further my artistic vision. So anyway, this is me in the hot shop. Yeah. Going back to the Cultural Arts Center, so I primarily did jewelry classes, and so I got my medals, and here's another piece that I did. And I also served on the board with Kathy and others on the Friends of the Cultural Arts Center. And every Christmas, I would help, or holiday party, staff recognition party, I do the decorations or coordinate the decorations. Well, the last couple years, because I was doing glass, I incorporated glass in the decorations, and that's where Ellen hit me up for, Gayle, you need to come and talk about glass. So we finally got a day and settled on a day, and I kind of encouraged David to come and join me in this talk, because he's more a glass artist than I am. I'm getting there, trying to get there. So anyway, so these are the glass pieces that were in the past 2 years, and then some of my work in the jewelry studio. This body of work is more of my stained glass and my fused glass work, and this is the kinds of things that I would do at the Martin Janus Center and now at the Friends. And so I teach this subject matter at the Fran Ryan Center. And again, part of my, you know, when you're teaching so much, you get stuck. And so I really did find myself not being very creative. And one of our fellow board members, Najat, said, hey, Gayle, you should check out OSU's glass program. And so I did, and I couldn't get in. And she goes, no, you just have to show up. So I just showed up. I think I was 7th on the wait list for David's class. And by the time registration was over, I actually got in his class. But yeah, but just show up, and eventually you'll get in a class. So this body of work is the things that I made during my time in the OSU program. And so, yeah, I'm pretty happy about the result of being kind of pushed into more of an artistic presentation versus my functional art. We would have debates all the time. Little a art versus capital A art. But anyway, so one of the things that I learned in this process of being at Ohio State is that, and working in the hot shop, is that it's very difficult to do the work well by yourself. It's about working with others and communication and teamwork and trust that people are going to be there when you need it, when that hot glass is getting out of control, that people around you are supporting you and helping you in a very positive way. And that part of the glass program is the community aspect of what I like about working in the glass world, because there's a lot of people that are required in order for you to have a successful object or whatever it is. And doing it by yourself is a challenge. Now, could I personally do many of my things on the previous slides by myself? I probably could. But it's so different when you're in the creative environment where other artists are with you and encouraging you and kind of egging you on to push yourself and to get to that next level. And that's kind of where I feel like I am today. And that's in part because of David, because he's, encouraging and pushing and nudging, creatively nudging you in a better place artistically. So at this point, David?
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
On this piece on it,
Let's see if we can get this in here.
I'd like to know what that is on the left-hand side. Are those tiny, thin pieces?
This about an inch and a half diameter. That's glass, and it's dripped. All of these, this is all glass. It dripped. I did this in the kiln, and I dripped glass in the kiln, and I stopped it before it totally melted. So,
The project prompt was for that one?
the project prompt for that was entropy, chaos, uncontrol. Can't control it. Although I did control the stop, sort of.
Looks like the stalactites and stalagmites. Yeah.
So here's the on that piece. So I liked how it turned out, but where he nudged me was, okay, so I came up with the concept. I'm gonna do this, David. He goes, go for it. So I did it, and he goes, well, what if you did another one? So I did a second one, okay, and that happened because I did two. Had I just gone with my instinct, I would have only done one, but because of what I call the nudge, I did it again. And I really like how it turned out with having the two like that. So that would be an example of a nudge.
What are the major points, I mean, not going, obviously, extended discussion, what are the major points between the big A and the little a as far as the art?
I would consider sometimes I don't know. I don't want to get into that debate now, but no. I mean, I consider some of what I do in terms of functional art, maybe a lowercase a, because it's not intended. Well, not necessarily.
Find out what that really means.
I think it's different for different people. I think that you're asking a very subjective question. When Gayle speaks to the nudge, what I'm intending to do is nudge people out of their comfort zone. So, I think the capital A is maybe someplace that's slightly more uncomfortable. That's a little more, you're extending yourself in a way where you're putting yourself a little bit more at risk, which has its trade-offs, downfalls, but that would be, I'm not an art theorist, I'm not an art historian, I'm an artist, but know that often the territory that you end up in when you are out of your comfort zone or do something that, or find something more unexpected is when it can achieve a little more resonance. So I think sometimes the minor gesture, it's it feels safe, it feels pedestrian, it feels very broad. So you might narrow your audience, but you may go even deeper with that audience. That's my 30-second take.
So Gayle, besides the glass blowing, do you do stained glass and fusing as well?
I was just asking that I was saying, let's talk about that stained glass. Wasn't that gorgeous? Yeah.
So these are some of the panels that I've done. So these are stained glass panels here, and they're kind of big. This one is 26 by 30 something. I think this was 24 by 24, and that 40 stems of flowers, and that's fused glass. Fused.
That's beautiful.
What's the process? Can you tell us a little about how that comes to be?
Well, the fuse is you shape it in the kiln, and the glass melts in the kiln, and you shape it in the kiln on ceramic objects or ceramic molds, and then it's assembled outside of the kiln. Now, you can accomplish similar things in the hot shop, but this was done before I knew anything about the hot shop. Blowing glass, yeah. So that's my stained glass. Oh, there, yeah, so that's me blowing glass. So I blew these cylinders, and the cylinders, they're kind of big, and then we cut them open, and we put it in the kiln, and it opens up into a flat piece of glass, and that's how traditional historical stained glass was made way, way, way back when. And then I took that sheet glass, and then examples would be David's books there are made from handmade sheet glass. And those are sheet glass that's made in the hot shop that starts off as a cylinder. And then that bird, that red bird, also started off as sheet glass, and that I cut up and then made into a bird. So those are done in the hot shop.
So do you guys have the hot shop at Fran Ryan, or do you go elsewhere?
I go to Ohio State for the hot shop, yeah.
That's my fault.
And then I do my other stuff at Fran Ryan. But I also, at OSU, I also help with stained glass and fused glass a little bit.
Gayle, can I just ask you, what is it about the medium, just in general, that is interesting to you? Why glass?
Why glass? I like the optics of glass. You know, light hits it and it does something else. In a dark space, it looks one way. In the sunlight, it looks another way. With spotlights, it looks another way again. It's just, I like how light, and it's three-dimensional. Most glass is dimensional. And so I like the dimensionality of the glass. Plus, I also like how the lighting and where you stand and where you move around it changes the view of what you're seeing. So it's very, to me, it's very dynamic medium. And so I've always liked glass in general. Before I did all this kind of stuff, that's what I would buy as a consumer, is I would buy little glass objects in my collection.
And Jeff Martin just came in, director of the now Fran Ryan Center. Great to have you.
Exactly, but yeah.
But not exactly.
I have my hands in many things, so.
It's wonderful you're here.
It's good to see you.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about my work. And I'd just like to say it's really wonderful to be here. Thanks, Gayle, for twisting my arm a little bit. And thank you all for coming on this rainy afternoon.
Yes, it was conditional at that Christmas party that you be part of us.
No, it's great. I love doing this. I love sharing about glass. I really appreciate the questions so far and the engagement, and encourage you to keep asking questions as we go through this. So I'm just going to show you a couple examples of my work. This is a body of work I've been doing for close to 10 years now. I do consider it a little absurd, a little challenging. One of the things that attracted me to glass was that it was a challenging medium to work with. One of the things that attracted me to art as a medium, as a way of expression, is that sometimes I don't understand it. And I'm okay in that space, and I'm okay making things that maybe are a little confusing. There's a lot of reasons I do this. One is that the technical challenge and experience of it is very satisfying. It's something that occupies me completely. I'm both designing a puzzle and solving a puzzle at the same time. So this is sheet glass that's glued together, and I take these commonplace objects. These are lids and containers. One's a tape roll dispenser. I'm attracted to the color. I'm attracted to the association with manufactured objects in a material that has a relationship to glass, has replaced glass in a lot of ways. I'm attracted to the sort of indication of a consumer product, consumer world that we live in, and making some sort of commentary on value. Another project, which I have some examples up here, are these glass book forms. So I've begun honoring sort of the experiencing of long media, you know, the experience of reading a book. By each time I finish a book, I'll encase it in these glass slip covers, I guess I can call them. And all of the sheet glass, all the color is specially made using commercially available color, but I'm mixing it like paint. So I'm not just using a color off the shelf, but I'm trying to find unique colors through combining them. Gayle already started to describe the process a little bit. It's the traditional method for making sheet glass for stained glass. So I'm also thinking about the tradition of communication. Stained glass windows were used to communicate stories to you know, pilgrims coming across, you know, from long distances to this spectacular experience of the cathedral, and then they're sort of bathed in the light of the story of, you know, you know, having a religious epiphany. So, you know, I'm kind of borrowing that mode of communication a little bit. In this case, you know, the book being in the timeline of this way of communicating. These maybe also reference the other screens we're looking at. They're a little more blank. They're a little more open to ideas being projected on them than communicating directly. Yes, please.
Sorry, to go back to the other slide,
Yeah, of
I
course.
just want to ask,
Of course.
do you
Yeah.
ever, like, etch the name of the book in the covers?
That's a great question. What I've started to do is actually write on the, pick out particular quotes or paragraphs from the books and hand write on the covers. So newer iterations of this piece do have some text. And then I'm also, there's other things in the work, but that's some of the feedback I've gotten, or some of the things I've realized is that, you know, I want to convey some of the text in some way. So yeah.
Does the color associate to the book?
To some degree, but it's kind of like in my own weird system. At this point, it's sort of like I've been reading a lot of war novels because my dad is a veteran, and actually the books are kind of associated with my parents in sort of two different sections. And so war novels are sort of orange and red, sort of a fire or blood color, and then science and philosophy is like green, thinking about like the word verdant, like sort of a, you know, yeah, you understand. And yeah.
I've got a, I would say marvelous life from where I sit, because you've got the education and you've got the experience and the desire to share, but there's something else. There's a therapeutic quality to what you're doing. And you just said it when you talked about your parents and what you're doing, how you express it. Do you feel like the therapeutic quality has increased over time as you've delved into your journey?
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful thing to say. Absolutely, yeah. And I think, in a way, I mean, if you look between these two things, this is pretty impersonal. For me, it is, but I think this is, you know, the work is getting a lot more personal. And I think part of that is the experience of teaching and seeing people transform, have formative experiences, or, you know, the real therapeutic quality. And actually, towards the end of the presentation, if we get there, there'll be some more specific examples of how people are using this medium as a therapeutic tool. So absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, you can contest me. I think everybody's an artist. You know, I think everybody, you know, makes aesthetic choices about what they buy, maybe mostly, but hopefully to some degree what they make, and that everybody can have sort of like, you know, take ownership of something, have control over something, and that is a very powerful thing. So, I am fortunate that I can also, you know, theorize about it, pontificate about it, and live it. So I do feel fortunate. So I appreciate you presuming that. I'll try to keep moving quickly. This is a really fun part of my practice, but I thought I'd throw this in because this conversation is really about community. About 10 years ago, I, with a group of a few friends, this is it's the two folks in the back, Abram Delorier and Liesl Schubel. We started an artist collective. Around that time, glass studios were beginning. This is pre-COVID, obviously, but glass studios were beginning to have more of these performative events with music and lights and sound and a lot of times costuming. Seeing that glass was already a bit of a spectacle and really playing that up. And we formed this group. It's called Flock the Optic, and we've performed all over the country. We've done installations and other kind of art investigations. Sometimes it's just on the internet. But this is one of our first performances at the Chrysler Museum in Norfolk, Virginia. And there's a lot of themes we explore. The migratory paths of the snow goose, spectrums of color, the repeating rhythms of dance music. And so we have a lot of fun, and it creates this great sense of community, which we're actually just reflecting on that already exists within the field. I'm also, my day job, as was apparent in the introduction, is that I'm an educator. I teach at The Ohio State University. I've taught a number of different places. I also teach workshops occasionally, in the summertime mostly, when I'm not teaching at OSU. And I find this to be a really fulfilling experience, as I just kind of mentioned. I think I gain as much as I provide. And I do feel really fortunate that I get to do that. A lot of chalk drawings on the floor. A lot of, glass is an interesting medium because it is very technical. There's a, sort of a large sort of run up to like being able to be comfortable doing it. But then it is also like inherently expressive and beautiful and kind of no matter what you do with it, it meaningful. So it is really a holistic experience for me every time I work with glass. I think we're going to transition into, and Gayle, you're welcome to join as much as possible, but we're going to transition into talking a little bit about, and questions are obviously welcome. Yeah, go ahead for it.
Have you seen the Catholic Church on Livingston Avenue that has the Stations of the Cross? I can't think of what it's called now.
I'm not familiar with that. It's a set of stained glass windows.
They are really beautiful. You should go see it.
Okay, I appreciate that recommendation. Yes. So I'll just sort of lay out a little bit our program at OSU. We have this entity called the Glass Club, OSU Glass Club. And it meets every Wednesday night during the school year. It's actually part of our scheduled classes. Most of our glass classes meet during the same time. And this is an initial meeting on a Wednesday night where 60 some odd of us go around and introduce each other. And we always sort of start that session with a big group meeting. It really started as a way to ensure that we were, all on the same page in terms of sharing the sharing the physical space, knowing about events that were coming up. We also have our visiting artists moments during this time, so we have a built-in audience when visiting artists come. But this is unique. Other areas or fields within the art department don't necessarily meet as an entire community on a regular basis, and we really get a lot of credit for doing it. But from my perspective, it's also essential. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of times we eat together, and we do have an Instagram. If anybody's on Instagram, you're welcome to follow along. You're welcome to come and join us when we have visiting artists. Our events are open to the public. In fact, we get funding because they're open to the public through the student organization. Here's a small selection of the wonderful posters. I have to say, Emmy Harned, who's a recent alumni from our program, really did such a fantastic job designing our posters over the last 3 years. And so get to share this really fun slide for you. And here we are eating. We usually, when the visiting artists come, they'll give a slide presentation, sort of like we're doing now. Then we'll have a big potluck feast, and then that artist will do a demonstration, either in our hot shop or sometimes in another studio, depending on their primary technical knowledge. We support this all through a pumpkin sale, and we also do a spring sale that is more like Mother's Day items or general craft items, a lot of jewelry. But in the fall, we really focus on the pumpkins. We've got some great pumpkin makers in the house tonight. Andy's a big contributor. But yeah, we are able to fund. We get a little bit of funding from, again, the student org entity, which is partnered with the university but not part of the university, and then our craft sales, which is another thing you'll find out about if you follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page as well. We also fund field trips. So recently, in the last few years, we've gone to Toledo. Toledo is a major hub for glass manufacturing, as you may know. They've got, this is down here on the right, this is the Pilkington, it's now NSG, but Pilkington float glass factory where they make all the sheet glass for buildings and skyscrapers around the world. It's really remarkable. Up in the top right is the Toledo Museum of Art Pavilion. And then we also took a field trip to Blanco, which is in West Virginia, Milton, West Virginia, and that's down there on the left. They invited us to blow glass with them on the factory floor, which was really generous and a lot of fun for everybody. And then this last spring, we went to Pittsburgh, and on the way, I think that top left one, we actually stopped in Moser in Cambridge, Ohio, which is another glass factory. So we take, we usually carpool, but we take pretty big groups of people around the region to different glass facilities and entities. Yeah.
What type of chemicals goes into the glass? Is any lead?
There sometimes is lead in glass, yeah.
Someone's told me lead is, the glass blowers that blows the glass, sometimes they get lead poisoning.
It can happen. It's more common actually for stained glass craft because any more lead is more so in the solder and some of the metals that sort of make the border for stained glass. So you do have to be really careful. Most of the glass we work with does not have lead in it. Lead crystal is a very highly optical glass that's used in industry and scientific industry and sometimes in art, but it's very expensive and typically we don't work with lead glass.
And I do know that some companies, they give targets and they got lasers and stuff that vaporize the thing, but onto the glass industry, to cut the glare and all that stuff. I don't know how poison that would be.
Yeah, you're right that there are a lot of hazards in the glass manufacturing process. When we're training students, health and safety is at the forefront of our mind. Going back to those slides of us all getting together, we clean the studio on a regular basis, so any particulates are taken care of. And we aren't working with processes like that. And I think in industry, for the most part, hopefully they're pretty safe. But historically, yeah, glass can be quite dangerous for a number of reasons. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Do you wear a mask when you're working with it?
In some cases, when cold working, when turning into a particulate, it's a good idea to wear a mask or sandblasting it or working with some other chemicals. Yeah. But in the hot shop, it's mostly safe. I mean, safe, in quotes. Burning yourself is a danger always, or hurting people's feelings because we're working together.
When you put the glass into the water, does that harden like steel, or does that, when you put the steel into it, cool it really quick, does that get the molecules tight, or?
So that's a good question. I'm not a material scientist. I'll start with that. But there is a process called tempering, which you might be familiar with. A lot of like architectural glass, shower doors, the side windows on your car. That's all made with tempered glass, and that is made by they cool it mostly, I think, with oils or actually maybe even vapors in that process. But we can do a crude version of that by taking the glass directly out of the furnace when it's like the consistency of honey and dripping it into cold water. And that will make glass that is like by a power of 10 or more stronger than the glass that would be cooled down otherwise. And but when it does break, it breaks into like sand-like particles, like as fine as you can get the glass. So there's sort of this paradox of this, this super strength, but then this real fragility once the surface tension is broken, and an explosive energy that's captured.
I don't understand what crystal glass is, that they put on timepieces and stuff. Is that harder, or is that?
Crystal with glass is a bit of a misnomer because glass is a non-crystalline material. So usually crystal is lead glass that has a sort of a more pure index of refraction and is more optical in that sense. But it's just called crystal because it looks more like mineral crystals. But if it's glass, it's non-crystalline.
What gets me is glass is harder than steel.
Glass has, in some cases, is stronger than steel. Absolutely, yeah. But is brittle, right? So when I'm framing a creative project for a student, I will often give us a class period where we'll have a long discussion on all these material properties of glass, or where would you find glass. And what we begin to expose are that these physical properties often have these binaries, right? It's both strong and it's weak. It's fragile and it's light and it's dark. And then we can use those metaphorically in terms of building a creative project where we're, in a way, as interested in the poetry of the material as the physical properties of the material. But those two things, in my mind, are in conversation.
On the colored glass, what type of chemicals do you put in to get the color?
Well, we're mostly buying our colored glass. We add it after the fact. But those are heavy metal oxides, the same things that go into paints. Cobalt for blue, iron for green or red, yeah. So it's very similar. And once it's mixed within the matrix of the glass, it's safe, it's inert, if I'm using that word correctly.
Do the stained glass and also the glass fusing?
Do I, personally? Yeah, I do. But, to tell you the truth, when those topics come up with someone like Gayle around, or Andy, truthfully, a lot of times I'll pass those little moments over to them because they might, their practice might be more invested in that. Yeah.
You as a teacher at Ohio State, you don't teach that to your students?
No, we have the facilities to do that, and we do. I do. I do when possible. I run the intro class, an intro level class, like a survey. So we train people in the hot shop. This again is the hot shop, and that's the glass blowing process. But we want a lot of access points for students, because not everybody, and we'll maybe get to that too, the sort of the accessibility, the affordability of this process can be challenging. Yeah.
Andy, does everyone here know who Andy is?
Oh, sure. Andy's sitting next to you, and Andy's a really wonderful artist, and with a longer career in wood turning. And have you done one of these conversations? You should, Ellen. You should have Andy, and then we can all watch Andy's conversation on YouTube later. Yeah. But in a conversation about community, I think it's important to note, and maybe that gets to the question, is like, sometimes my role truthfully is to like try to keep the doors open, you know, sign people into classes, like keep people safe. But there's so many people with I work with 3 other instructors who teach classes besides me in glass. So, you know, I'm the coordinator, maybe kind of like sometimes the hub of the wheel, but there's a lot of spokes on the wheel. And so that's important to note. Let's see what we have next. Oh, I mean, do you want to talk about this a little bit? I've been up here a while.
So one of the things that is fun about being in the glass program as well, and we've seen it happen, experienced it, is that other artists approach the glass department to assist with making glass objects for their installations. And since I've been there 5, 6, maybe I've experienced 6 different artists from outside of our department approach David or the department and say, hey, can you help me make this thing and this is what I'm thinking about, but I want it done in glass. And so then David recruits some of his students to help make the components, and other people, not just students, other people in the shop. And this person, Sahar Khoury, had a installation that was scheduled at the WEX, and she wanted glass vessels to hold Palestinian olive oil that she brought over, and then anyway, but she needed these glass vessels to display this oil. And so her installation was a whole big thing, but we were involved in the glass part. And so all these vessels here were made. I think one of these I actually made personally, but this piece up here is a double-walled glass thing, and it's huge, and I did put it here so you could see the size of the vessel, and there's 2 layers of glass in there, and it took a whole bunch of people, and this is the whole community and teamwork, and I mean, you just got to trust that everybody knows where they're going to be, because that glass is hot, and it's big, and but anyway, so it's a process to get to that result. And so that's the whole kind of community of other artists coming to the glass group and say, hey, can you help us out? And so we're part of her installation. Another artist, and she teaches at Kenyon College. She's the art faculty at Kenyon College. Manami, Manami Ishimura, and very creative, talented, tiny little thing, smaller than me even, but so dynamic and energy off the charts.
The best smile of anybody you'll ever meet.
Yeah. So this is Manami, and so she's working. She learned how to play around with glass with David's help, and here she's making some wax molds for her things that we eventually blew for her. If you go to the next page, so this is her idea, right? Sketched out conceptually. These glass tubes. I need this thing in or a glass vessel, and so this whole process and working with David and other people to come up with her installation. And this here is an ant farm, and she made all these tubes, piece of glass, and the ants traveled throughout this whole thing, and it was in the studio for 3 weeks. Yeah, and so you could watch it evolve, this ant colony. And this is Manami here. Yeah, she's a wonderful person. But she came and asked for help and would come down maybe once a week to work with the OSU people. So in addition to Manami and, the first one, Sahar, we worked with Ken Ronaldo and Amy Young out of the, one's an emeritus faculty, another one, Amy still works at Ohio State. And then we had, anyway, there are several others, and I can't remember their names off the top of my head, since I've been there and involved in helping. And it's that part's fun. I enjoy that part. So whenever Dave goes, I need help. So I always, if I'm available, I try to volunteer. So locally, maybe you can talk about the history. Yeah.
So we are really fortunate here in Columbus. We have the Columbus Glass Arts Center. It was recently referred to for, like 20 or more years, 30 years. Glass Axis might ring more familiar. They recently moved to a new location in Franklinton on Scott Street, and they're still getting their legs a little bit over there, but they have a full hot shop, flame working area. They run classes and fusing, and stained glass, hot shop, neon. A really kind of remarkable institution that we're really fortunate to have, a nonprofit 501c. If you are interested in taking glass beyond, I think there are stained glass classes right here and at the Fran Ryan and a little bit of fusing, but going sort of another level, getting a little warmer. The Glass Art Center is a wonderful resource. They'd love to see you over there. One of the ways, and maybe what I mentioned is one of the ways that this, for us or for me, this conversation, it's something that this serves, and again, Andy is involved in this as well, is we're trying to find, we have a good relationship with the Glass Arts Center, but we're trying to, I guess, grease the wheels a little bit to get our students more comfortable there, and have more of a dynamic relationship with them, which it doesn't matter the reasons, but for various reasons, we serve different purposes. They do, you do have to like pay to use their facilities, whereas, paying tuition at the school, which sometimes the students are not sure where their tuition dollars are coming from or going. It seems like a little more frictionless for them at the school. So we're kind of, Gayle, I'm working with Gayle and Andy, and we're thinking about how we can, integrate what we do into what they do and vice versa a little more. But keeping this institution really healthy is a big part of that. So we're a huge advocate for them. And that here it's a little bit about that. So exploring the creation of a forum for interaction, collaboration, and creative exchange among the glass artists in Central Ohio. So Andy Wolf again and Gayle are initiating a focus group to explore interests, ideas, needs, and possibilities. I'm OSU faculty. We have a lot of really active students and alumni. Again, the Columbus Glass Arts Center. Franklin Park Conservatory also has a glass studio, if you've been over there. They do run some classes. It's mostly a demonstration studio, so people are coming by and looking at the gardens, kind of stop by for a bit. And we do have a lot of independent glass artists in town, some private glass studios. So, again, we're looking at ways that we can get all those folks sort of communicating more seamlessly, so we can all benefit, hopefully. So I'll try to go through this quick. I know we're getting close to our 1 o'clock time, but we're really fortunate. We hosted an annual event at OSU in the fall, and it's called the Glass Olympics, and it mostly serves university glass programs, which there are about 40 some odd in the country, and I'd say there's about, there's 12, 13, 14 maybe in our region. We actually have a pretty strong regional representation in the Ohio Valley area, and every year those programs try to get together at one site and have a whole slew of games. We ran it as a symposium, so we had a couple lectures. Beth Lipman and Dory Guthrie are both professional glass artists who gave talks during the events. And then we host these kind of Olympic-style games. In one case, there was a glass-themed Jeopardy. This is a big group photo of everybody who attended, which was, I think, 170 participants from 14 institutions, which is pretty remarkable. As far as South Jersey and Wisconsin, and I think Louisville, Kentucky, Next year, it's going to be in Alfred, New York, where there's a very prominent program. So a little bit what's happening nationally. There is the Glass Art Society Conference, which has an annual international event. Last year, this summer, it took place in Arlington, Texas. Next year, it's going to be in Corning, New York, where there's a major glass museum associated with the Corning Company. Demonstrations, lectures, conversations, vendors, a place for the community to get together, have conversations. It's really wonderful. Salem Community College, which is in South Jersey, also hosts an international flame working conference. Flame working is a more accessible way to working with hot glass, where you're just working with a bench torch. There's some examples over on the table. A few participants from our program try to make it out every year. Salem also teaches summer workshops. They run a scientific flame working program throughout the school year, and internationally recognized one. Pilchuck Glass School is another one. Gayle mentioned this. It's north of Seattle, and it was founded by one of the most famous contemporary glass artists, Dale Chihuly, in the 1970s, and they teach about 30 some odd workshops in the glass medium. They're the only school dedicated, well, I guess Corning, but of workshops of that nature that set in a rural environment, they're the only one dedicated solely to glass. We could talk plenty more about Pilchuck Glass School or the summer workshop experience. I want to mention this really quick, because one thing that is apparent to all and a real challenge, I think, in our medium is that glass it's hard to make it accessible to all people. There is a real buy-in. The facility is really expensive. Continuing to make with the material, just buying the raw material is expensive, and then everything else included. So there are some real significant efforts, mostly formulated more recently to make the community more inclusive and equitable. Now this one, Hilltop Artists, has been around for quite a long time, I think 20 plus years, but this is in Tacoma, Washington, and it's a program that serves at-risk youth and at the high school level, provides them access to the glass studio, a range of glass processes, and actually has a great track record of having artists come through the program who then have sustainable careers. Yeah.
So you talked about the hot shop itself. What
Yeah.
kind of temperature range are you talking there?
Oh, well, the hottest it gets to is about 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's inside the furnace. So, it feels like yesterday all the time.
Then what about the hand torch?
The hand torch can be up to 3,000 degrees. Yeah, and you really don't want to brush your hand in front of that, or it's not even a burn you would ever recognize. Yeah, but luckily it's a very small concentrated area, so we usually stay out of his way. Yeah.
Chihuly, didn't he put his eye out or do something when he was doing glass? It's really dangerous.
So Chihuly lost his eye in a car accident. Yeah, and I don't want to speak for Chihuly, but that came at a time when his career was actually really starting to take off, and the fact that he stepped away from blowing the glass himself and started hiring a team of artisans to make the glass for him allowed his work to flourish and sort of multiply in an even greater way. So I'm not saying you can, that hurting his eye was the reason his career grew, but there's sort of a coincidence that actually the fact that he stepped away from having to make things himself transformed the way he operated.
I've seen a lot of his stuff at the
Franklin Park, and
yeah.
at I think the museum has a wonderful
Yes,
chandelier
they have
as
a
well.
beautiful piece.
Yeah.
And Dale is known to have said how much he enjoyed being in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Loved it.
Dale is a lovely human being. How are we doing on time? a few minutes. Sure, I'm going to go through these real quick. I just want to, I want to give some attention to some of these programs. Again, doing great things for our community, making it more inclusive. So this is Firebird Community Arts, Project Fire in Chicago, Illinois. They work with, a lot of these participants are victims of gun violence. And they're, you know, in talking, sort of going back to the idea of, you know, therapeutic, you know, using glass and the glass processes as a means to address very real trauma that some of these young folks have experienced in their lives. And then another organization that's fairly new called Crafting the Future helps fund participation a lot of times in craft workshops for students who may otherwise not have the means to do so. A lot of times BIPOC artists, Black, Indigenous, people of color. And they also run a program called Better Together that regularly has events at different glass institutions where BIPOC artists get together and have an event and are able to, you know, be in community with one another. So I do want to, like, you know, sort of make note of these wonderful things that are happening within our broader community nationally. And the other thing that we participate in at OSU is we recently, I have this up here because we recently were told to get rid of DEIJ initiatives. So I'm calling this Decisions Extending Inclusivity Judiciously. But GEEKS is an organization, it's the Glass Education Exchange. It started during COVID. And it's a resource. They have visiting artists, presentations. They have affinity groups for different populations of students. And as OSU subscribes, so we help fund this program. It's run by a group of folks out of Madison, Wisconsin. And yeah, and it's a really great way for us to stay connected to the national glass education community. So thank you. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Shared such beauty with us. We are so grateful, and you use the word community. You call us together to beauty. Ah, take a deep breath. Isn't that wonderful? David, Gayle, thank you.